ねえ、あまね。私たちにできることって本当に何もないの？
Welcome back to more of the Eden of Grisaia, the third game in the trilogy of the Grisaia trilogy, also known as Grisaia no Rakuin or La Eden de la Grisaia for you Spanish-speaking folks out there. Last episode, Yuji is in a bit of a bind. Found out he was on TV as a suspected terrorist, but it's known that the government may have captured him and brainwashed him or something. We're not quite sure on the details, but let's see what. Hopefully, we can find out some answers today.
まあ、ご飯の用意でもして待ってるしかできないかな、今は。
Ooh, dinner.
それだけ！
今の私たちに何もできないのは学園長の言う通りよ。
会えないまでもせめて風見さんとお話ができれば。風見さんご本人から何もするな、おとなしく待っていろと言っていただければ何十年でも待てるのですが。
You could, and you have. Not decades, but still, long time.
お兄ちゃんの居場所ってどこかわかんねえの？国が監禁してるって言うなら会いに行くぐらいできるんじゃねえの？
調べる方法がないわけでもないけれど、調べたところでどうにもならないという現実は変わらないわ。
じゃあどうすればいいのよ。
Kamini Sashi, at least, could perhaps have waited for years with the blind faith of a loyal dog anticipating the return of its master. Waiting, however, was not Urasamakina's style. She spoke with the impatience of a hot-blooded young officer fresh out of intensive training. Already, she was on the verge of bursting out the door. Sakaki Yumiko, by contrast, was indecisive, convinced that they simply didn't have enough information to take action of any sort. Then there was Matsushima Michiru, yelling, "What now?" at the others, but herself entirely unsure as to what they should do. For all her apparent energy and decisiveness, she was genuinely terrible at coping with unexpected challenges. Even Suemane, who claimed that she wasn't worried and suggested that they have a nice dinner waiting, couldn't hide the growing anticipation in her heart.
今はとにかくユージを信じて待ってるしかないよ。
Our boy Yuji always pulls through. He always pulls out too.
そうね。今下手に動けば本当に風見くんの立場を不利にしてしまうかもしれないわ。
とは言ってもこのままじゃどうにもならないのよ。風見さんと直接会えないまでもまずはできるだけ情報が欲しいところですね。
その件に関しては学園長からなんとか春寺さんと連絡を取る方法を考えてみますと前向きな返答を取り付けてあるわ。
Yeah, if we could contact JB, then they could get some information, hopefully.
今は続報を待ちましょう。
悠長に続報を待つうちに取り返しのつかない失敗をするのが日本という国なのよ。
言いたいことはわかるわ。でも最善というものは全てが終わってから見えてくるのも事実よ。勇猛果敢と称する軽挙盲導もまた日本の伝統だわ。
榊貴様ほらもう喧嘩しないの。ユージが心配なのはみんな同じなんだから。
I'm worried about Yuji and I'm the narrator.
無力は罪じゃない。何もしないのが罪なのよ。悔しいのもみんな一緒だよ、マキちゃん。今は我慢してお願い。わかった。それはわかったけど結局私たちってお兄ちゃんのこと何にもわかってなかったってのがちょっとショックなのよさ。さっちゃんがユージの資料を見つけてくるまで何も知らなかったわけだしね。
Yes, they're referring to the Labyrinth of Grisaia game, for those of you who have not watched me play it or played it yourselves. They kind of found like Yuji was kind of writing an autobiography of sorts about his past and everything that led up to who he is now.
ねえサチ、あの資料ってどこで見つけたの？
それは風見さんのお部屋のゴミ箱ですが。
ユージの部屋のゴミ箱ならいつも私が片付けてるけど。
いえ、クローゼットというか物置部屋の方のゴミ箱です。
The secret trash can.
入っちゃったの？あの部屋に？
It's like the secret garden, but, you know, trash can.
はい。
じゃあ見ちゃった？
少しだけ。
あっちゃー。なんなのよ。
Everyone, and I mean everyone, has a side of themselves they want to keep hidden away. And in Kazama Yuji's case, the walk-in closet in his room was where he stored it. This place was a hidden depository for all the things he kept inside, including his weakness. Just once before, Amane had set foot into this room, and Yuji had responded with genuine anger. It was a small space, full of crumpled up paper. There was writing all across its walls. If Mahama Academy itself was a box for the confinement of troubled young people rejected by society, this room was the box in which Yuji sealed away the parts of himself he couldn't allow others to see.
うわっ、何この部屋、汚
The hell?
つうか
Look at that.
落書きだらけじゃん。前に言ったでしょ。ここにはユージの見られたくないものが詰まっているのよ。
暗いのよさ。電気つかないの？
照明の電球が外されてるから。
Wow. There was no window in the tiny room. Oh, I'm yawning, sorry. There was no window in the tiny room. It was a storage space, nothing more. And apart from a single aluminum rod near the ceiling, it contained only garbage. Balled up pieces of scrap paper were lying all over the floor. The walls were covered in words, apparently written in felt-tip pen. There was simply nothing else. They'd opened this door thinking there might be some kind of hint within. But then they stepped inside and saw the tortured, sloppy writing scribbled across the walls. They found themselves averting their eyes and fighting the temptation to leave.
さっちゃんは壁の文字読んだ？
ほんの一部だけ読んでしまいました。
I wonder what Yuji wrote on the walls.
でもきっと私が読んではいけないものだと思いまして、ゴミ箱を抱えて慌てて飛び出してしまったので。
Perhaps Yuji wasn't so well composed as we all thought.
でもその持って飛び出したゴミ箱の中身は復元してしまった。
すみません。言い訳はしたくありませんが、どうしても気になってしまって。
別に責める気はないのよ。書類にはサッチンの名前も書いてあったし、ここの壁にもサッチンの名前が書いてある。自分の名前を見れば気になっちゃうのは当たり前なのよ。
Okay, let's say you're in their shoes, right? You open this room, you see the writing on the wall, literally. And you see all this crumpled notes of paper. I mean, wouldn't you be curious as to what it said, or what the notes said, you know? I mean, anybody would, right? I mean, the human will is only so strong.
あ、ここにユミコの名前書いてあるわよ。読む？
いいわよ。どうせろくでもないことしか書いてないんでしょ。
How do you know? You haven't read it.
単純に榊さんとはどう接していけばいいのかって書いてあるだけだよ。話をしたがっていない時には無理に聞き出さない。皮肉以外で家族の話は持ち出さない。頑張れって言葉は使わない。こうしてみると友人なりに気を使っていたんだね。
どこがよ。いつも私を怒らせてばかりだったわ。
それわざとじゃないですか？こちらの壁には時々怒らせないと無言のまま人を嫌いになるって書いてありますよ。
ああ、 それはわかる気がするのよ。ユミちゃんは他人に期待をしない分、自分が我慢することでストレス溜め込んで一気に爆発するから、定期的に怒らせた方が付き合いやすいって前にお兄ちゃんに言われたのよさ。
もう私のことはもういいから、もっと他に何か現状の打開につながるようなものはないの？
Hopefully.
って言われてもな。松島みちる。
Oh,
イリス・マキナ。
I wanted to read that. Sick of being powerful, even in a hollow sense. Seeks peace in darkness. Darkness? Idleness. Why did I say darkness? That doesn't make any sense. Well, I'm hardly one to talk. She's... Sure... Man, I can barely read that. She's sorely lacking in common sense in ways that sometimes render her vulnerable. Living proof of how difficult it is to grow up without a role model. More than pity, she needs someone to learn from. I don't like the way she pretends to be helpless so that others will protect her. She needs to stop relying on people and learn her own strengths and weaknesses. Eventually, she'll have to decide on her own path to follow. The more choices we can give her, the better.
小峰幸。
Seems to be obsessed with the idea that no one will be angry with her as long as she does what she's told. Loyally carries out any order she's given. Doesn't hesitate to tempt the unreasonable. Frequently accomplishes feats of skill and never gives up when she fails, but sometimes goes seriously overboard. More than anything else, I think she's afraid of the consequences of disobedience. If that's the case, we need to either find the root cause of her fear and eliminate it, or provide her with friends who can help her face it. Based on her interactions with the material, I think the latter plan would be more effective.
そして私。
Suffers from a form of psychological trauma, familiar to anyone who spent time on the battlefield. Many possible approaches could be taken. The main problem is that she seems to believe she deserves her pain and that she'll never be forgiven. Lieutenant J, who caused the death of his men by issuing misguided orders, might be a useful standard of comparison. He voluntarily stayed on the front lines, accepting ridiculous missions as a form of self-flagellation. As long as he was in the military, suffering the cruel orders of his superior officers, he was able to forgive himself. If Amane is the same way, perhaps what she needs is someone to provide her with punishment.
そこら中に散らばってる紙くずも同じ。書いてあるのは私たちのことばかり。
That's clearly written in Japanese, and yet it showed English writing. Come on.
でも一箇所だけ。さっちゃん、ライトを持ってきてくれる？
持ってます。どうぞ。
Of course you do.
ほら、ここ。
The beam of LED light settled on the corner of the closet, revealing words that testified to Yuji's own suffering. I can't sleep. Okay. No matter what I try, I just can't sleep. Lately, I've been tossing and turning every single night. When I lock myself up alone like this, I always end up remembering the past, and hating myself for my own hypocrisy. It helps to write it all down on these walls. When I scribble my thoughts inside this closet, it makes me feel at least a little more stable mentally. I gave someone an arrogant lecture on their way of life again. It's not like I think my words are actually going to change anything. Am I even doing the right thing? Should I really just keep on going like this? I don't know what I'm living for anymore. There's no one here to answer my questions. Kazuki and Asuko were supposed to give me the answers, but they're gone now. It's not like I've given up. It's not like I've despaired. That's what I want to believe, at least. But I'm just so tired. If I stop forcing myself to stand, it feels like I might just collapse. And if I fall apart now, I know from experience that I'll sink into an unendurable nightmare. I scratch frantically at my own body, tormented by the illusions of insects running around under my skin. The pain's intolerable. Even death would be better than this. But I'm not allowed to die, not permitted to escape this hell. For some reason, there are people who believe in me. People who are counting on me, and that just pulls the noose ever tighter. I can't run away now. I simply can't. If I ran away, I'd merely burden myself with even more regret. I can't let another woman die while I stand by helplessly. Just the thought of it makes me sick to my stomach. Feels like my body's turning itself inside out. I can't take this. I just can't take anymore. Help me, Asako.
嘘だ。だってあのお兄ちゃんが風見裕二がこんな泣き言を言うわけねえのよ。
軍人だって人間よ。ましてや彼は一度は大きな心の支えをなくしている。
That's true.
でもそれでもこれは見たくなかったのよさ。
それでユージは私たちから逃げ出した？へじゃないわよ。結局あんたユージに助けてもらったじゃない。あんただけじゃない。私だってサチだってユミコもアマネもみんなあいつに助けてもらったじゃない。ちゃんと勇気をもらったじゃない。それを何？
It's true, I did. I did all
ちょ
those
っと弱
things.
音吐いたぐらいで勝手に幻滅して。
It only took me 240 episodes to do it, but I did it, damn it.
あいつは私たちに弱いところがあってもそれを認めて、それからどうすればいいのか一緒に考えてくれたじゃん。そもそも勝手に部屋入って勝手に日記を盗み見てんの私らじゃん。勝手に彼氏の携帯見て勝手に怒る女は最低ってアマネの雑誌にも書いてあったわよ。
それはちょっと違うんじゃないかな、さすがに。ウキャーはどうかと思いますが、私としてはみちる様の意見に大いに賛成です。限りなく軍神に近い風見さんとはいえ、所詮は人の子。優しくもどこか線の細かったゆうくんです。いかような経験をしようとも、人の本質がそう簡単に変わるわけもなし。そんなゆうくんが救いを欲しているのであれば、私がそれを支えましょう。我が敬愛するサメマンの言葉を借りるのであれば、次は俺の番だというやつです。風見さんに救われたこの身なれば、私もまた同じことをするまでです。
サッチ、俺が間違っていたのよ、サッチ。今はっきりと目が覚めたのよさ。
マキちゃん、
ガシ
ギジ。
まあどうでもいいのだけれど、スオさん、あなたはこの日記の存在をいつから？
Oh yeah, how long have you known?
実はもう結構前から。と言っても詳しい内容までは知らなかったんだけどね。ちょうど1年ぐらい前かな。ユージに予売しようと思って夜中にユージの部屋に行ったんだけど、ベッドにユージがいなくてさ。
予売って
Sexy surprise.
いや、当時の私ってなんつうかユージにいじめてもらわないとってそのことばっかり考えてた時期だったからね。
ああ、お風呂で私に見つかって寮内でところ構わずするなって禁止令を出した直後のあたり？
そうでね。夜中にこっそりとユージの部屋でこってりとって思
Show him
っ
a
て
good time.
ちょいエロい下着つけてルンルンとスキップしながら部屋に来てみればユージがいない。 はあ、こいつはあれかい？さっちゃんあたりと夜中の下水管掃除かな？ズポズポしちゃってんのかな？
Talks like that.
なんだろう、軽くイラつくわって思ってたら、なんか変な声が聞こえるわけよ。いやいや、この声は？耳を澄ませばクローゼットの中から聞こえるじゃない？それによく聞けばユージの声だし。でもその部屋は前に私が掃除しようとして扉を開けたらめちゃくちゃ怒られた部屋だったから、どうしようか迷ったんだけど、このまま放っておくわけにもいかないし、こっそり扉を開けてみたの。そしたら紙くずと落書きだらけの部屋の隅っこの方でユージが丸くなってうなってた。慌てて近づいて声をかけてみても反応しないし、どうしようって思った時にそこの壁の文字が目に入ったのよ。で、あ、日記だと思って読もうとしたところでユージが起きて、めっちゃ怒られたっていうか、すっごい声で出て行けって怒鳴られた。
そんなことがあったのね。
そう。あ、だから私にもこの部屋には入るなって言ったんだ。それからもちょくちょく夜中にユージの様子を見に来たけど、やっぱり時々うなされてた。大丈夫って聞いても寝苦しいだけだって言うだけだったし、それでもなんていうか全然安らかじゃない、辛いだけの眠りの淵でもがき続けてるみたいで。ユージ。
Well, that killed the mood.
バンジャボラじゃなくて、なんじゃこりゃだよ、マキちゃん。
ずあー、うるさいわね。今ちょっとしんみりしてるとこでしょ。なんなのよもう。騒ぐんじゃないわよもう。今夜は私を泣かせなさいよ。
You tell him.
それどこじゃねえのよ。これ見ろ、家から見るのよ。なんなのよもう。
I did think about continuing down this path, trying to live a normal life. But I know how stupidly optimistic that thought is. And I hate myself for thinking it. Doing good in the present won't erase the crimes of my past. I've killed too many people. Killed so many people. Sacrificed far too much. All I really want is a place to die. Asuka was allowed to die because she saved me. And I saved the students of Mihama. So I think I've earned that right as well. Hey Asuka. I saved 5 people, see? Isn't that enough? It's okay for me to die now, right?
バンジャーボラー。これってどういうこと？お兄ちゃんってば死ぬ気なの？
なんだろうな。どうしてこう、男って潔さに美学みたいなものを見つけちゃうかな。残された女のこととか全く考えないわけ？つーかさ、私には強く生きろみたいなこと言っといて、何これ、喧嘩売ってんの？穴掘って埋められたいの？
これは憤慨の極みです。主を亡くしたメイドの不憫をまるで考慮していません。風見さんは私のために生きるべきです。
Y'all know the girls are gonna band together and go find Yuji?
全くもってけしからん。お兄ちゃんが死んだらユミちゃんは明日から誰をおかずにすればいいのよさ。だよな。
Yeah, what's she supposed to do now?
とにかくさ、なんか嫌な事態に進みそう。
Yes, things are looking very grim.
こりゃゼが火でももう一度お兄ちゃんに会って横っ面ひっぱたいてでも説教してやらにゃいかんな。
Hey, don't die. Makina clenched her fist tightly, feeling the heat of her own skin. The words she spoke echoed through her, and cold anxiety gave way to passionate warmth. The heat in her chest seemed to take on a physical weight. For the first time in a while, it felt like her feet were resting firmly on the ground. I can't run away now. The words that Kazami Yuji himself had scribbled onto that closet wall resounded in all of their hearts, and with that steady foundation beneath them, the first step forward no longer seemed so daunting. With a stinging bitterness in his mouth and a metallic stink lingering in his nostrils, Kazami Yuji quietly awoke. Oh my god! He's tied up. His head ached as if it were full of lead. Fatigue seeped from every pore in his body. His cheek was glued to the floor. He couldn't bring himself to rise. For hours he lingered in a half-conscious state. Even that most basic of questions, where am I, did not occur to him. His thoughts were vague and unfocused. For those who have experienced certain kinds of suffering, the most important thing at any given time is simply to know that they're still clinging to life. Everything except survival is a secondary concern. But eventually they search for a reason to pull themselves up from the dirt. Some turn their faith into strength. For others it's anger at the world's injustices. The majority perhaps stand up because they simply have no other choice. However, none of those applied to Kazami Yuji. As his tired body lay on the floor, his tired mind was returning to the days of his childhood. The bitterness of the medicine that had rendered him immobile had recalled, strangely enough, the memory of an apple his sister had given to him many years before. On that day, Yuji's sister had offered him one of the fruits she'd used as models for her sketches, and he devoured it with the tears in his eyes. He remembered this vividly, even now. Most people would probably have thought it a bit of an overreaction, but until that moment, Yuji had never so much as tasted an apple. He'd read about them in books and seen them on television, of course, and there were always a few of them sitting around in his sister's studio. But those fruits were tools that Kazuki used in her work. At the time, Yuji viewed them as something like offerings on an altar. Touching them was completely out of the question. The reason he ultimately tasted one of these divine fruits was quite simple. Kazuki, the god of his household, had casually asked him if he'd like to eat one, and he reflexively nodded in response. More than a little stunned by this sudden blessing, he managed to thank his sister, and then immediately retreated to his room. After carefully confirming there was no one nearby, he proceeded to bite vigorously into it. He'd expected it to be softer and juicier than it really was, and above all else, he hadn't imagined it would be so tart and sour, even. Still, the unfamiliar taste was enough to leave him crying. At that point, he'd still had tears to shed over such simple things. As he slowly grew aware of his numb body and heavy head, Yuji let out a soft snort of laughter at the awkward, over-serious boy he'd been.
目が覚めたようね。
You. Forcing his heavy eyelids open, Yuji looked toward the sound of this voice and found a familiar face. Hey there, JB.
いやあ、じゃないわよ。もう二度と目を覚まさないんじゃないかと思ったわ。
Have you been here all along?
いいえ、私が来たのは1時間ぐらい前よ。何度か声をかけたけど、全然目を覚まさなかったわ。
I don't think I've slept that well in quite some time.
いい気なものね。あなた鎮静剤を使われたのよ。
Yeah, it sure seems that way. My tongue's still numb and there's a bitter smell in my nose. More importantly, why are you here, JB?
なんでと言われてもね。あなたにとって私って何？
Friend? That sounds like something you'd ask a boyfriend 2 weeks before dumping him.
あなた、
2 weeks, like 2 minutes.
自分が今置かれている状況を理解している？
Oh, not really. I remember my name and identification number 9029, but I really don't know where I am or what the time is. It is 10:27 p.m.
ヒースオスロが 日本に入国したわ。
I know. I saw him with my own eyes. What's going on?
あなたの担当官を外された私には、それを説明することはできないわ。
You can at least explain why you're no longer my case officer, right?
私があなたの担当官を外された理由は単純。
She didn't want to be a case officer anymore.
あなたに人殺しはできない。ましてや相手がヒースオスロともなれば、パニックを起こすかもしれないと強く反対したからよ。
I guess you're right about that, huh?
そうね。そしてあなたはテロリストであるヒースオスロに対する政治的な切り札として利用されようとしているわ。
What's that supposed to mean? Why did Oslo enter Japan anyway? You're not obligated to explain, huh? You won't find any slaughterhouse that tries to explain things to their cows, much less obtain their consent to be made into steak. Still, things are a little different when two human beings are involved. As the victim, it's hard not to ask questions, and generally speaking, the other party will try to accommodate you to whatever degree possible. Most likely the fact that Kazami Yuji had been permitted to speak with his former case officer was a humanitarian gesture of sorts.
オスロが入国した一番の目的があなたのことではないにせよ。オスロが政府に対し、あなたの身柄の返還を要求しているのは間違いのない事実。
Why does he want me?
それどころか、風見雄二の貸与賃金を支払えば、勝手に連れ出したことには目をつぶってもいいと言ってきているらしいわ。
That man's beyond shameless. I mean, how many years has it been anyway? Why does he suddenly give a damn about me?
デュポン計画という言葉を聞いたことは
Project Typhon.
当然知っているわよね。
Is that supposed to be Typhoon?
あ
What's a
なたはその
Typhon?
計画の被験者だったのだから。
The designer's soldier plan. The idea was to produce the ultimate soldier through genetic manipulation and a sophisticated doping regimen. But the experiments failed over and over again, right? Its goals were never realized.
そう。一時的な能力の発現に成功しても、弊害として発がん率が上昇。
Oh shit.
活性化したがん細胞は約2年で被験者を殺してしまう。
Damn.
強化の度合いを調整しても、今度は神経に異常をきたして、やはり最後は死に至る。事実、あなたも遺伝子変異の過程で神経を侵されて、
I'm gonna
そ
die?
のまま実験の犠牲になるはずだった。
Do I have cancer?
そして、あなたは今も、こうして生きている。
Oh. That's
オ
why
ス
he
ロにして
wants
みれ
me.
ば、あなたは貴重なサンプルなのよ。
Of course I'm the one who survives, right? Yuji's the best at everything. It was pure coincidence that I survived.
偶然こそが貴重だと言い換えるべき？それこそ、偶然に頼らなければ先も見通せないような実験の繰り返しだったのだから。オスロがあなたを何年も放置していたのも、単純にあなたの偶然に対して、正確に分析できる技術が追いつくのを待っていただけだと考えるべきね。
You're saying Oslo wants to take me back and restart Project Typhon?
あまりにも荒唐無稽だし、オスロがあなたの身柄を要求してきたことに対するこじつけでしかないけれど、今のところ他の理由は見つかっていないのよね。
Even if that's actually true, I don't think one case study is gonna make that big a difference.
オスロも別にあなたを取り返して今日明日で結果を出そうとは考えていないでしょうね。それこそ10年から20年後をめどに利益を回収するつもりじゃないかしら。もしドゥポン計画が実を結んで風見雄二と同等の兵士を量産して2000人の大隊を作れば飛ぶように売れるわね。見込み利益は数兆円規模じゃないかしら。
2,000 copies of me, huh? Ugh, just imagining it makes me sick to my stomach. I mean, I don't even want one copy of me.
とはいえ、その手のうさんくさい技術に手を伸ばすのは、 大抵が負けが見えている末期の組織と相場が決まっているわ。そういう組織は一度勝利で政権を手に入れても同じような組織に潰される。
Okay.
こうした負の連鎖は武器商人たちの格好な乗客となるけれど。
Because I'm just a curious individual, I looked up what a Typhon was, and it's actually a Greek mythology, monstrous giant and the most deadly creature. That's pretty cool, right? That makes the project makes much more sense now. So, what's gonna happen to me then?
言ったと思うけど、オスロが入国した一番の目的はあなたじゃないわ。そしてその一番の目的に対する交渉材料として、
If not for Yuji,
あ
then
なた
what
は
could his
利用
reason
される。
possibly be? Something better than Yuji? Something bigger? Could you at least tell me what this primary objective of his actually is?
私の口からは説明できないというだけよ。
What does that mean? I see. Yuji didn't push the issue. He'd anticipated this reply. Whatever Oslo's reason for entering the country, it was clear that assigning his assassination to Yuji had been a test of some kind. Had he succeeded in that test, things wouldn't have come to this. There was no denying that. He had no one but himself to blame for this unfortunate outcome. He'd known this day would come eventually. He'd always been resigned to it. And so his answer came easily enough. If there's some way you can use someone as worthless as me, then feel free.
あなたは本当にそれでいいの？
It's something the brass decided, right? My opinion isn't really relevant here.
美浜の女の子たちはどうするの？
They'll get by just fine without me. They're a lot stronger than they used to be.
そういうところで冷たいのよね、あなた。朝子もそうだった。
Honestly, I wish you'd stop comparing me to Asuko every chance you get. It's really annoying. Had Yuji wept and begged for rescue, JB would probably have tried to help him somehow. However, he no longer saw any reason to go that far in the pursuit of his own survival. JB clearly had some thoughts about his attitude, but she kept them to herself. But anyway, they're using a hostage against the terrorists, huh? Guess the people upstairs aren't afraid to fight dirty.
すべてを決定したのは地下の教授よ。
The professor again? What's that guy like anyway?
近いうちに直接審問という形で会えると思うわ。
I see.
きっとあなたは私を恨むでしょうね。
What's that supposed to mean?
その時になればわかるわ。
Okay, well, I think that's it for today's episode of the Eden of Grisaia. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked the video, make sure to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more of Grisaia in general. So, I will see you all on Friday. Have a good day.